A group of First Nations leaders gathered in Montreal on Friday the 22nd to sign an alliance against further development of the Alberta Tar Sands. Ratsénhaienhs Clinton Phillips was in attendance. He is the portfolio chief for the environment, and he brings us an update on what happened at that important meeting.
Well, we had a pretty intense 3 days of Assembly of First Nations of Quebec and Labrador meeting. As soon as that had finished, we went into the Alliance Treaty. For me personally, it was probably one of the highlights of my political career representing Kahnawake. It truly will be an event that I can look back if I live to be 100 and say exactly how that day transpired. The emotion in the room was immense, as you can imagine. You know, a lot of elected chiefs had difficulty speaking and talking about it. But I guess the entire event, simultaneously being webcast in Musqueam, BC, with our brothers and sisters on the West Coast, rather, was truly powerful. You know, I think it's going to send out a huge message to not just Canadian, but to governments in North America that there has to be better alternatives, and we need to start seriously exploring and not raping and constantly taking from Mother Earth. You know, we've all heard the rumblings of Mother Earth for years now in terms of polar caps melting at an alarming rate. You know, ways of life in the true north are being affected negatively. We're hearing about fracking occurring. We're hearing about uncharacteristic weather patterns all across the globe. Mother Nature has been telling us something. We need to start listening. People in authority need to start listening. And it's not all about corporate greed. Corporate greed cannot always win. There has to be a balance. There has to be a balance in nature. And I think if it's up to the First Nations of this country and the United States to do something, to stand up and to react again, we will do it. And I think yesterday's joint statement was just that, giving notice to the governments that, hey, look, we're going to step in and you need to start listening to us. It's not just us. Apparently, it's also Indigenous peoples in South America who are also getting involved. They have been watching, and they do have copies of the treaty that was signed. And apparently some First Nation Indigenous peoples of South America are also going to follow suit. We also were told that it was actually brought to North Dakota, so it is in Standing Rock as well. So I think this is only going to grow in time. I think it's a good thing. I think it's something that people in Kahnawake could be proud about. Ghislain Picard, the regional chief of the Assembly of First Nations of Quebec and Labrador, had mentioned that in 1701, 215 years ago, there was a treaty signed in Montreal with numerous First Nations back then and the government of New France. So it's rather symbolic that this now be done again with our brothers and sisters in BC, and it being done in Montreal 215 years later, and I took part of it. It's something that I will truly never forget, and always be grateful for the opportunity to represent Kahnawake and to let the country know and the continent know that we're going to do what we can.